digital world, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. I hope the holidays are treating you tremendously well. Everyone is off work, settling in. It's Christmas Eve. Obligatory family catch-ups, dinners, lunches, breakfast, Christmas carols. Santa Claus is coming, so I'm told. Hope his travels are well. And then, of course, tomorrow, Christmas Day, and presents, food, so much food. The whole shebang. Very exciting. Who'd have thought? It seems like only yesterday it was last Christmas, and we're here again. These things go by way too quickly. I am not prepared. I have so many presents to wrap. I haven't wrapped a single one. Time's running out. I probably shouldn't be sitting down to record this podcast, but hey, I'm here and I'm excited because, as I promised last week, I want to bring a special Christmas episode to all you Spliced In Later listeners out there. Specifically, I want to do my top Christmas movies. Now, last week I said top 10 movies. Well, I've had a discussion with a few other people, and we've decided, that as it's the 12 days of Christmas, we're going to do the top 12 Christmas movies to celebrate that magical number 12. It's a great idea. It means the dilemma I had for making this list, trying to decide what could make the cut, expanded by 2 spots. Threw me into a bit more of a dilemma because then I had to decide what was good enough to get in spots 11 and 12 and what wasn't. The last couple of days have been quite a panic as I've gone through trying to decide what are my favourite Christmas films. And here I am. I've got it. I think I've got it. I'm very excited. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think. Hopefully it'll put us all in the Christmas spirit and get us ready. Perhaps you'll go away after listening to this and watch some of these movies I'm about to bring to you. Perhaps you'll watch them with your family. Perhaps you'll watch them with your pets. However you do it, Merry Christmas to you all. I'm very excited. Let's get down to business. And by getting down to business, there's one thing I want to bring to the table straight away, and that is that this list has parameters. And that's because there are so many movies out there that involve Christmas in some way or another, whether the movie's about Christmas characters, or whether the movie takes place at Christmas. If Christmas shows up at some point during the movie, it's oodles, it's too many. So to help me make this list, I have decided that the movies that I will be ranking on this list are movies that specifically are about Christmas. That includes celebrating Christmas, traveling for Christmas, Santa Claus, reindeer, the whole 9 yards. Specifically, and this is what I want to get out of the way quickly, I want to mention the movie Die Hard. Die Hard is a spectacular movie. I love it with all my heart. I can guarantee you that I would rank Die Hard a lot higher than a lot of the movies that I'm about to list to you. But in order to accept the parameters of the list that I'm doing, I have to step back and not include Die Hard in this list for the simple reason that John McClane does not celebrate Christmas in this movie. The Die Hard scenario takes place at Christmas, but Christmas as a concept, Christmas as a whole, does not impact his ability to destroy all the terrorists and save the day. I'm not arguing that Die Hard is not considered a Christmas movie. I think it's a Christmas movie. But for the parameters of this list, it can't make the cut, unfortunately. But I'm giving Die Hard its little segment just now at the beginning, so you understand the dilemma I'm in with Die Hard, so you understand how much I love Die Hard as a movie. So Die Hard gets its due being recognized in this list, and so you're not sitting through the whole list just waiting for me to say Die Hard. I hope I'm not losing you. Please don't turn off your listening devices. Please stick with me, see what movies I've got to mention to you. If you're unhappy with me, let me know. I'm sure you will. Alright, we've got the rules out of the way. We can proceed. Coming in at number 12, and I'm sorry, I know a lot of people are going to be like, what, you just said you're not including Die Hard on this list and you're going to start with this movie. But coming in at number 12 for our 12th day of Christmas, Jingle All the Way. Now, Jingle All the Way is by far not the greatest movie in the whole world. It's certainly not a very competent movie. But I love Jingle All the Way, and it succeeds in its mission of giving me the Christmas spirit. And that's what most of these movies on this list are. These are movies that succeed in making me appreciate Christmas, get me excited for Christmas, and allow my Grinchy heart to let Christmas into my soul. If you're not familiar with Jingle All the Way, It's a very simple concept. A dad, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, lovable Arnie, doing his best to pretend to be your average American father. He's a workaholic, doesn't pay much attention to his kid. Eventually he realizes he's got to pull his act together, and all his kid wants is this one action figure. But this movie was made in the early 90s, so there was no such thing as internet ordering. There was no such thing as extra stock. This one item is apparently all America wants, and no store has it. So it's a very simple movie. Arnie races around his local town trying to find this toy. Now, Jingle All the Way is hilarious when it wants to be, and also hilarious when it doesn't want to be. Schwarzenegger has some great lines, some great quotes that I will remember to this day. My favorite, of course, "Put that cookie down now." I would yell how he says it into the microphone, but I'm afraid it will break. So you'll just have to use your imagination. Imagine Austrian Arnie screaming, "Put that cookie down now." I hope you're laughing. Perhaps you're smiling. It certainly makes me laugh. The overall message of the movie is clear, and that it's to appreciate your kids and make time for them, especially around the Christmas period. And it works for me because as much as I enjoy the time off that Christmas provides from work and things, I don't do very well in terms of getting into the Christmas cheer. Seeing everybody that you're obligated to see can be overwhelming at times, especially if people don't get along, people get on each other's nerves. Christmas is guaranteed to really stray those relationships. But Jingle All the Way really helps in making you feel positive, to appreciate your family, to be there for them when you need them, and also to bring you that comedy that you're missing when you're stressed out. If your head is exploding from shopping and Christmas obligations, pop in Jingle All the Way, listen to Arnie speak, and run around, get hit by toys, get run over by a Christmas parade, and you're guaranteed to be laughing. I promise you. That's why Jingle All the Way gets the 12th spot, and I will stand by it till the day I die. Alright, moving on to our next entry, number 11. This one, I don't know, people might disagree with me on this one. I don't think it has a huge fan base, but it is The Polar Express. The Polar Express is very special to me because I saw it in the cinema with my mother. It was a nice outing for a mother and her young son going to see a Christmas film at Christmas time. Robert Zemeckis is a favorite director of mine. He's very good at portraying really unique looks at movies. If you want a proper example of a Robert Zemeckis film, highly recommend Back to the Future. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's this little film that came out about time travel. It is great. It is fantastically shot and a great story and great sets and the whole thing. And it really carries over Zemeckis' vision into the Polar Express as well. But also, and it's a biased nature to it, but there is a character in this movie that is very much like my brother. I'll remember sitting in that movie theater with my mother, watching this character come on screen, being shocked to see how much like my brother this character actually was. And then, this character held up its train ticket, and initials had been stamped into that ticket, and they were the same initials as my brother, so it blew my bloody mind. It was amazing. I can't explain to you the sort of feeling you get when you think, maybe it could be someone like, oh my god. The basis of the Polar Express is your main protagonist has sort of lost their Christmas spirit. We don't exactly know. There's been some sort of tragedy in their past, or perhaps there's neglect, there's something there. But it's watching this boy, we never learn their name as well, it's just a boy, slowly come around to the idea of Christmas. I mean, it does help getting on a magical train that takes you to the North Pole where you get to talk to Santa Claus. I'm sure that's guaranteed to boost your Christmas spirits. But it's a lot of fun. There are very interesting characters, animated, and the message is very sweet and clear, which I really appreciated. So the Polar Express comes in, number 11. I'll be flying through these movies a lot quicker than I normally would because I'm going through 12 films here instead of 10, and I want to try and keep this under the half-hour mark. So if you think, oh, he didn't talk about it too much, he probably doesn't like it as much as he says he does. Oh, yes, I do. But I'm aware of the little timer on my recording device that's just ticking towards that 30-minute mark. I'm also aware that I'm sitting in a very, very hot room. I can't have the fan on or it will pick up in the microphone. So I'm sweltering. I'm dying like a person of heat stroke. So we just got to keep going on. And I realize as I explained why I'm trying to go faster, I just spent a lot of time explaining that, which defeated the purpose of the story. Our 10th Christmas film, Christmas with the Cranks. Again, another example of a movie where the Christmas spirit has been lost. I am a huge Tim Allen fan in certain movies. Tim Allen does very good in Christmas movies. Perhaps it's a sneak peek of other movies that are to come. Who can say? Please keep listening. But he and Jamie Lee Curtis, they play parents. Their daughter has grown up and left home. She's not going to be around for Christmas. So they decide for this year, they're not going to do Christmas. They're not going to spend any money on Christmas presents. They're not going to put up any trees. They're going to save all their money and go on a wonderful trip to Hawaii. Now, I like this movie for conflicting reasons. And the first is that I get it. I'm on board with their decision. I would very much like to go to Hawaii for Christmas. I think it's a fantastic idea. Of course, in the movie, they live in a particular street in a town that's really obsessed with Christmas for some reason. It's almost like they are not grumpy souls like myself. But they put up all the Christmas lights and they celebrate Christmas as earnestly as possible. And apparently in the past, the Cranks were like the biggest Christmas celebrators. So when they realize that the Cranks aren't celebrating Christmas, they go out of their way to be just pains in the ass. They hound them to put up their Christmas decorations, to buy Christmas ham, to volunteer at Christmas events. And watching them do that, you go, Jesus Christ, guys, back off. Leave them alone. If they want to go to Hawaii, God damn it, let them. But of course, the neighbors are played to a comedic effect, so it's not to be taken too seriously. However, on the other hand, Tim Allen's Mr. Crank goes too far, I think, in terms of his need to skip Christmas. I get saving money for Hawaii, but, still wish people Merry Christmas. He goes out of his way when someone says Merry Christmas to reply to them, oh, I'm not celebrating Christmas this year. Just say Merry Christmas, man. My God. So, of course, there's that nice halfway point where you relate to Tim Allen, but you also want him to just not be such a piece of shit. Which makes for fun viewing. Of course, it's a comedy film because it is Tim Allen. And of course, as the movie progresses and it turns out they probably will have to celebrate Christmas, it's a race against time to let Christmas back into their hearts and to celebrate it as they normally would. I watched this at the movie theater with my nan. In my last times I did watch movies with my nan before she stopped going to the movie theaters. Or maybe I grew up and she didn't care about taking me to the movie theaters anymore. Who can say? But it was a cherished experience I had with her, and I cherish Christmas with the Cranks enough for it to be my 10th spot. Number 9 is Disney's A Christmas Carol, which came out in 2009 and is essentially the Jim Carrey show. Jim Carrey is one of my favourite actors of all time, which is probably why I cherish this movie as well. Surprise, surprise, it is also directed by Robert Zemeckis. Perhaps Robert Zemeckis and Christmas are like catnip to me, because I enjoy this movie even more than The Polar Express. It has that same animation style that I liked in The Polar Express that he goes even further with in A Christmas Carol. Jim Carrey essentially plays Ebenezer Scrooge and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. There's very little other actors involved. Gary Oldman is there as Bob Cratchit, but it really is just the Jim Carrey hour and a half. I enjoy the Christmas Carol story very much so. I like what it teaches. I think Charles Dickens came up with a winner there, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the world agrees with me, because there are at least, 76,000 adaptions of A Christmas Carol. But this one's one of my favorites because I enjoy Jim Carrey playing the different roles. He inhabits each personality of the ghost with enthusiasm. One minute he's a jolly giant, the next he's a terrifying grim reaper. It's a bit dark as well. It really embraces the gothic horror of A Christmas Carol. It's rated PG, but when I was watching it at the movie theater, there were times where I was scared out of my mind, and I'd taken a little person to go see the movie, so I had to stay brave while being petrified. They weren't scared. Kids aren't scared these days, I guess. I guess it's just me that's just scared of everything. But it was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to the movie because I enjoy A Christmas Carol and I enjoy Jim Carrey. I was satisfied with the result, and it really hammers home the whole don't be a grump on Christmas, be kind to people, which is my favourite message for Christmas movies. So, Christmas Carol, number 9. Number 8, and I'm worried people again will be mad at me. They'll probably either think that this movie should be higher, but it's Home Alone. I very much like Home Alone. It is a cult classic for most people, as I understand. I honestly didn't really watch Home Alone properly for the first time until a few years ago. I know, please don't be too mad at me. I was aware of the concept of Home Alone, I just hadn't got around to seeing it, I guess. And I had other Christmas movies that were my favourite, so I would watch them at Christmas, and I wouldn't try too hard to get Home Alone to the front of the pile. I wish I had. Home Alone is a treat, starring young Macaulay Culkin as a boy who, coincidentally enough, is left home alone at Christmas. His family forgets about him. We've been there, right? And while he's there, two bandits, the Wet Bandits, attempt to rob his house, and he fights them off in a series of cunning traps that he sets, which honestly would kill these guys. But of course, because it's a family comedy movie, it's just funny. Ha 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 ha. That guy's head is on fire. He'll be right though. This movie is rated G after all. It is pure escapism film. You cannot watch Home Alone and be grumpy. If you go in feeling grumpy, you'll come out feeling better. If you're having a rough day, it's really something to watch just to cheer you up. There's some classic 90s comedy in there. The Wet Bandits are hilariously goofy, as in most of these types of movies. Joe Pesci is great. I love him in most of the movies I've seen him in. He normally does a lot of serious shit, like Martin Scorsese's films. So it is kind of nice to see him not swearing every second word. It's really nice to see him just be your normal, crazy Joe Pesci. And of course, it's a cult classic. It's got a lot of quotes in there that people remember to this day. But it's good. The reason it isn't higher on this list is because, as I said, I only watched it recently. There are other films that I've watched over and over and over again every year. Perhaps if I were to make this top 12 Days of Christmas list 10 years from now, Home Alone might move up the list. But for now, it sits comfortably at number 8. Number 7, another movie I've only watched a couple years ago, but it has made enough of an impact on me to secure its spot, is Scrooged. Now, as I mentioned previously, I love the story of A Christmas Carol. Scrooged is a fun comedy spin on it, starring Bill Murray. It's essentially A Christmas Carol, but in the present day. So Bill Murray's Scrooge character is the head of a TV executive company, making everybody work on Christmas, being a general jerk that most of these Christmas Carol Scrooge characters are. And it is fun seeing the Christmas Carol concepts and themes applied into everyday life. You get some taxis driven by crazy devil creatures, some odd musical numbers, and of course you get Bill Murray's deadpan humor and everything. Bill Murray has a very specific type of comedy that is just fantastic to watch, especially in films like Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day. He rolls with everything that happens to him with a deadpan response, a dry wit. You can't help but laugh watching him just deal with this crazy stuff that's happening to him. Additional thanks, I think, to this movie, and why I appreciate it so much as well, is also the very small role of Bobcat Goldthwait. If you're unfamiliar with Bobcat Goldthwait and you haven't seen Scrooged or Police Academy 2, imagine a cockatoo. Now, you know cockatoos make that terrible screeching noise. Imagine if a cockatoo made that screeching noise but also could speak English and decided to pursue an acting career. That's essentially Bobcat Goldthwait. Watching him just bark out these lines in this weird drawl that he's got is baffling at how he managed to make a career out of that. But every time he says something, it's just so hilarious and I can't help but laugh. And that's why Scrooge is number 7 for me again, is the comedy. It brings the joy to the Christmas time that a lot of people are looking for. I need a movie that makes me laugh, and Scrooged succeeds tremendously so. Hence, number 7. Number 6, this is one most people should be familiar with, Elf. We all know Elf. We've seen the memes, we've seen the GIFs, we've seen the pictures of Will Ferrell in his elf outfit. But if you are unfamiliar with Elf, essentially the story is Will Ferrell plays a boy that accidentally crawled into Santa Claus's bag, takes the kid back to the North Pole, realizes what he's done, but then just decides to raise him as an elf. And of course then we flash to the present main point of the movie, which is Will Ferrell discovers he is a human. His name is Buddy, by the way, and heads off to the real world to find his dad. But of course he's grown up on elf customs in the North Pole. He doesn't know what life is like outside of Christmas. So the way he interacts with other people in the real world, he doesn't understand what's going on, leading for, of course, hilarious results. Elf is a ridiculously silly movie and really plays on Will Ferrell's ability to be a ridiculously silly man. But it's also incredibly enjoyable. It really makes you feel like Christmas is the most important thing in the world. Buddy is such a sweet, innocent character that you can't help but root for him, regardless of what he's doing, whether he's attacking children for not respecting Santa, or calling poor Peter Dinklage an angry elf. It is extremely silly and extremely lovely. I appreciate Elf. I watch Elf every year, as I'm sure the rest of the world does. Number 6. Alright, coming in, number 5. We're almost halfway here. The Santa Claus 2. Number 2, what about number 1? Whoa, stick around, listen, perhaps it'll come up. As I said, I love Tim Allen in Christmas movies, and the epitome of his Christmasness is his role in the Santa Claus movies. Hard to give the plot of a sequel without talking about the first film. Essentially, all you need to know is Tim Allen is Santa Claus by a contract. And he's happily being Santa Claus, but there's a term in his contract, his clause, that we didn't know, which is he needs a Mrs. Claus, or he'll lose his Santa Claus power. So he has to leave the North Pole, find a woman, get her to fall in love with him, while also convincing her that he is in fact Santa Claus. It's a lovely romantic film. Elizabeth Mitchell plays the woman who will eventually, hopefully, become the Mrs. Claus. Try not to spoil these films, but I mean, you know how these Christmas films end. I doubt a Christmas film's going to end with people miserable and depressed and their missions failed, but you never know, I suppose. The chemistry she has with Tim Allen as he attempts to win her over is delightful. It's very sweet. He uses his little bits of magic to charm her. She's also quite cynical of Christmas, so it's a Scrooge-ish story of trying to get her to appreciate the message of Christmas. But there's also a fun little side to a story here, which is while Santa's gone, the elves build a robot Santa to run the North Pole while he's gone. And this robot just gets too enthusiastic about his role, and of course starts to see everything as black and white. What kids are nice, what kids are naughty. And then he gets drunk with power, starts assuming all kids are naughty, turns the North Pole into some sort of military compound. It's so silly and great. And of course you've got the side stories of Santa having to go back to his old family before he left for the North Pole. His son's become a bit of a delinquent. Lots of stuff going on here, but it all works in tangent. Nothing feels silly. Not even the bit where Santa holds a meeting of fairy tale creatures where he hangs out with the Tooth Fairy, Father Time, the Easter Bunny, Cupid. It's definitely the film on this list that has the most in terms of Christmas characters and fairy tale creatures and magic and wonder. I saw it at the movie theaters, and then I bought it on DVD back when DVDs were first becoming a thing, and I've watched it over and over again every Christmas. It is an absolutely delight. It is a treasure for me. The Santa Claus 2, number 5. Number 4. This is a movie I'm sure most people have not heard of, and they'll go, what, when I say it? And again, this proves why this is my bias list. I'll Be Home for Christmas. I know, I can hear you all going, what? Well, I'll Be Home for Christmas is a very unknown little Christmas film starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas. If you're unfamiliar with that man, he was the voice of young Simba on The Lion King. But essentially what the movie is about is he plays a bit of an arrogant teenager who's been out of home, staying at a college campus. His dad has remarried while he's been gone, so he's pulled away from the family essentially, and he's been skipping all the holidays. He has not gone back to see his family in quite some time. His dad really wants him to come home for Christmas, so he says, if you make it here on Christmas Day, I'll buy you a car. A goddamn car. So of course, being a young teenager, he's like, yeah, that's a good deal. I'll come home. But being a comedy film, things don't go the way he planned. He misses his plane. He gets attacked by jocks, chased by a crazy old lady, ends up in a Santa Claus running race. It's a classic road trip Christmas comedy film, with the heart being that, of course, he starts to realize that his family does love him and he misses them, and they need to get together and sort out their problems. It's a very sweet little film. There's a lot of comedy to be had, a lot of crazy situations happening, and you really relate to Jonathan Taylor Thomas's character. You get where he's coming from, but you also understand that he's a bit of a prick. And as the story progresses and it becomes less about going after that car and more about just seeing his family, and all the Christmas music is playing and all the Santa Clauses are appearing, it's very delightful and heartwarming. It is a great movie to watch with your family. I remember turning the TV on Christmas Eve and this movie was on, And it was one of those things where I nearly turned it off because I had no idea what I was watching. And it was a really delightful couple of hours. And I was really happy recently to find it on DVD and rewatch it and recapture that joy I had watching it in the past. So this is one I hope I can recommend to people. If you've never heard of it, if you're curious, I'm sure it's easy to find. It'll be on some streaming service, I guarantee. But give I'll Be Home for Christmas a watch. Get that Christmas warmth that it very lovingly demonstrates to everybody. Number 3, yes, I said Santa Claus 2. Let's jump around to a little bit before that, for the original, The Santa Claus. This is a delightful Christmas movie. It is guaranteed everyone should be watching this around Christmas time. Tim Allen, once again, plays a deadbeat dad that's neglecting his child and really not a Christmas person at all. Accidentally kills Santa Claus. Not on purpose, so he's still a hero. For a series of events, he ends up being contracted in the clause to take over as the new Santa Claus. And what transpires is he doesn't believe what happened really happened. People think he's going crazy. He's slowly transforming into Santa Claus. But his lovely, cute son believes that what happened happened, and his one firm supporter, and tries to get him to embrace that he should be Santa Claus. Now, since I just talked about the Santa Claus 2, you can probably assume that things work out for him and he does indeed become Santa Claus. But there's a lot of magic in seeing Tim Allen over the course of a year in front of your eyes slowly transform into that lovable, jolly, red fat man that we're all familiar with. Seeing the beard come in, the gut come out. He gets mail for the list that he's got to check twice. The reindeer starts showing up. Absolutely lovely, charming film. Really embraces the whole don't be a Grinch, love your family thing, but in the most lovely way possible. I watched the Santa Claus when I was a little kid. I was that kid that believed that Tim Allen was in fact Santa Claus, and I love it to this day. So, number 3. Coming in at number 2, I've said the term Grinch an awful lot. Can you guess what this film might be? I also mentioned how much I loved Jim Carrey as an actor. Can you guess what this film might be? Well, let me tell you. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is a delight of a film in terms of comedy and Christmas and Jim Carrey's wild antics. Essentially, if you're unfamiliar with the story of the Grinch, in a snowflake, there's a town called Whoville, home of the Whos. The Grinch lives on a mountain near them. The Whos love Christmas with every fibre of their being, and the Grinch absolutely hates it, and he's miserable. And of course, for a series of events, he decides, I'm going to steal Christmas. So he dresses up as Santa Claus with his lovely, faithful dog Max at his side, goes down and swipes all the Christmas presents. This is a delight if you love Jim Carrey's zaniness. When he's being the Grinch, he puts on a lot of impressions. There's a lot of flailing arm gestures. He's yelling, shouting, screaming. He is so quotable. I think every year I relate to the Grinch more and more. Everything he says I agree with wholeheartedly. Whether it's he's just eating because he's bored, whether he just wants people to leave him alone, whether he can't find the time to hang out with people because he's booked wallowing in self-pity. I get you, Grinch. I understand completely. I get it. And of course, it's fun watching him go and rob all the presents, and his dog is so damn adorable. I love Max. Max is great. Max is his little reindeer. So sweet. The Grinch was going to be my number 1 spot. In a last-minute turn of events, it did get pushed down to number 2 by another one. But it's interchangeable. I would happily put The Grinch back at number 1 if I wasn't so adamant that the one I picked is the true number 1 Christmas film. So if you haven't seen The Grinch, I find that very hard to believe. But watch it. And if you have seen it, it will make you remember how funny that thing is. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Number 2. Alright, we've blown through 11 days of Christmas and we're about to announce our number 1 Christmas film that I like, my bias list. Hopefully I've said a film you like. Hopefully I've mentioned films that you're interested to watch now. Hopefully I haven't pissed off too many people. Of course, I'd like to give out a few honourable mentions, not as many as I normally would, because I've just already listed 12 films. But there are some films that were considered for this list, and I'd like to mention them just so they get some recognition. Call Me Claus, a TV movie where Whoopi Goldberg is Santa Claus. It's as hilarious as it sounds. Deck the Halls, Danny DeVito versus Matthew Broderick, Christmas Lights and Christmas Spirits. Gremlins was a bit hard for me because of the parameters I previously discussed, but as the kid gets Gizmo the Gremlin as a Christmas present, I will allow it. It's quite a fun Christmas, yet also kind of horror film, which is unique in itself. The Grinch film that came out in 2018, nowhere near as great as the first Grinch, but Benedict Cumberbatch is very fun as the animated Grinch. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. A lot of fun to watch. Certainly not as good as the original Home Alone, but still follows the same magic that the original had. Love Actually. Everybody loves Love Actually. Romance at Christmas time. Guaranteed to fill the grumpiest heart with a feeling of love. The Man Who Invented Christmas. That's a new one. Dan Stevens plays Charles Dickens, who is coming up with the idea for A Christmas Carol, so of course you can understand why I appreciate this film. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Classic Christmas film. Chevy Chase trying to survive Christmas with his family. The Night Before, a fun little stoner comedy sort of film with Seth Rogen about some friends going on a pub crawl on Christmas Eve. And of course, the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause. Not quite as good as the first two Santa Clauses. There's a little bit of magic lost, but it's still fun to see Tim Allen in that outfit, and Martin Short is a very fun Jack Frost. Alright, here we go. Our number one film. Can you guess what it is? I'd give you a drum roll, but I don't have a drum. It is The Muppet Christmas Carol. I know a lot of my listeners hate The Muppets, so I'm sorry. I know a lot of my listeners love The Muppets, so you're welcome. As I said, I love The Christmas Carol, but boy, do I love The Muppets. The Muppets always make me feel happy when I'm feeling blue. And this adaptation of A Christmas Carol with the Muppets put into the characters is an absolute delight. Gonzo, the Great, narrates the story as Charles Dickens with his faithful sidekick Rizzo. And Ebenezer Scrooge is played by the delightful Sir Michael Caine. In fact, I looked it up and this was Sir Michael Caine's first real role in quite some time. And if it wasn't for this film, we probably wouldn't have him in all the movies that are coming out as of right now. So that's great. He is a great Scrooge. You can see him having fun, acting with these puppets, singing along with all the songs. Of course, it's a Muppet movie, so there are going to be song and dance numbers. Kermit is a delightful Bob Cratchit. Plus, you get some of my favourite Muppets are in here, just as side characters. But basically, it is just Muppet humour on the Christmas Carol approach. So you get all the joy and wonder and lessons of A Christmas Carol, but then you also get that meta humour that the Muppets is so famous for. Every single song in this movie I love and adore, and I sing over and over again at Christmas time to get me in that Christmas spirit. It's not a long film, so it's a quick watch, so you can get what you need out of it without taking too much time out of your day not socialising with your family on Christmas. So you could say, sorry family, I just have to step away to watch the greatest Christmas movie according to Spliced In Later, but I'll be back in 68 minutes. So much fun. Talking about it now, I've got it sitting next to me, I'm ready to pop it in. Muppet Christmas Carol. Absolute delight. Love the Muppets. Love A Christmas Carol. Number one. And there we are. Happy 12 days of Christmas, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this list. I hope you've got something out of it. I hope I've entertained some people. I hope I haven't angered too many other people, especially about the Die Hard thing. But yes, moving on. I hope everyone has a delightful Christmas. I hope it's merry. I hope your family treats you well. I hope you get everything that you want. I love and appreciate you, as always, but even more so because it is Christmas. Thanks everyone. I'll sign off and I'll see you in a few days. I've got a movie review coming. I won't tell you what it is for once. You can be surprised for once. But I'll have that up in a couple of days, so I hope to see you then. You've been spliced in later, my friends. Adios, muchachos. Merry Christmas. I'll catch you next time.